she said, I'm Sterrett. I'm from the University of Kentucky, and I will be talking to you about precision technologies, or bringing dairy production into the 21st century. So I'm sure most of us have smartphones, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, or something else, but the computer in just your little cell phone itself versus a single MIT mainframe in 1965 is 1 million times cheaper, 1,000 times more powerful, and 100,000 times smaller than that mainframe. But do we really utilize all that information that we can get from that? Probably not. Some of us use it for email and things of that nature, but are dairy producers using the information that they're getting to their fullest ability? So what is precision dairy farming? It's using technologies to measure physiological, behavioral, and production indicators. It is not to replace producer intuition or experience. It's solely to supplement the observational activities of the skilled herds person. We still need to have that farm manager to know what to do with the cow once you receive that information. And the purpose of them are to focus on health and performance at the cow level. So as we know, there's management on various levels on a farm with any species. You can look at the entire herd of animals. You can look at just one barn or one group of animals. You can look at an individual pen, or you can look at the individual animal. This is where most producers are struggling a little bit, is when farm sizes are increasing and we're getting a lot more animals in one area, it's hard to get individual attention to one animal. So precision dairy technologies can help us get that information. So there are a ton of areas that you can monitor on a dairy cow, most of which we don't think about on a daily basis when we're just looking at the cow herself, but they're all very important, and they all signal subtle things to us sometimes, and some of them signal huge things to us. So, here. So we'll just go around this cow a little bit, and if you guys do have questions throughout, please feel free to interrupt me. This doesn't need to be super formal. So up here is rumination, or pH, so we can monitor what the cow is eating, how many times she's ruminating, because if she's not eating enough or she's not feeling well, she's not going to ruminate as much as she's supposed to, and feed intake does affect production. We can look at fatness or thinness and body condition scores. If a cow is really fat or really thin, she can have a lot of problems during parturition and through lactation. Mastitis obviously is a huge one. It's very expensive to our industry and not so great for the cow either. We can look at milk content, so what is in the milk and how can we make it the best possible milk that we can get. Mobility is an important one that I think Gosha will be speaking on in a little bit, so I'll just touch on that a bit. And hoof health is very important also, which relates to mobility. The animal position or location, if you could track where the animal is at any point in time, you would be able to tell how much time she's spending at the feed bump, if she's laying down long enough, maybe if she's going to hide in a corner that she maybe is getting ready to calve or something. Standing times and lying times are very important. A cow should lie down and she should stand up to eat, and those are very important to her milk production. Heart rate is important. It can be a welfare concern. It can also be, you can tell if something is stressing the cow out if she has an increased heart rate, but it can also be for diagnosing illnesses. Chewing activity relates to rumination. That's very important. You need to make sure your cow's eating. Respiration. If the cow is breathing very quickly and heavily, just like us, when we're heat stressed, it's probably not a good thing. You might want to check her. They also do this when they're close to calving and when they're not feeling well. Methane emissions is one that I don't think a lot of people normally think about in our industry, but we're being pressured to think about due to all the environmental pressure. You can measure that, and there are some technologies out there that measure it. We won't be touching on those, but hopefully you guys have seen them. And again, feed intake and temperature is very important. We've used rectal temperatures since we've had the capabilities of using rectal temperatures, but there are some issues with them, and if we can find a better way to measure temperature, then we're a lot better off. We can get more accurate temperatures. So I won't go into huge details on my study in particular, but since we have some at UK, I thought I would mention them to you. And then just to note, I'm not supporting any one company. This is just what we have. There are many different companies that do these, so I'm sure you've heard of some other ones. We'll go around the circle here. And this first one, which is an ear tag in her ear, it measures surface temperature of her ear. We hope to use it for detecting milk fever. So on a farm, on a normal farm, when a cow looks like she's sick, the herdsman goes up and fills her ears, and if it's cold, then he gives her some calcium. But this could give us a more quantifiable indication of milk fever. The DVM bolus is a reticular temperature bolus. So it resides in the reticular rumen of the cow. It sits there her entire life, and it gives you temperatures when she comes into the parlor. And there are some that take temperatures while she's out to pasture and can read it up to a reader outside. A leg accelerometer, and there's also some neck accelerometers. They can tell you, if you know what your iPhone, if you turn your iPhone and it turns with you, it's the same technology that's in there, so it can tell when she's standing up or when she's lying down based on what direction the leg tag is. So it can give you standing times, lying times, and activity. And then the last one is the HR tag. It has an accelerometer also, but the cool thing about it is it has rumination recorder. So when she regurgitates her cud, it actually records how many times she does that in 2-hour increments. And as we said, that can be really important for feed intake monitoring. So what are the benefits of precision dairy farming? Some of the benefits, and I think there probably are more and eventually will be a lot more, are increased efficiency on the farm, reduced cost, improved milk quality, minimized environmental impacts, decreased antibiotic use through the prevention of disease rather than the treatment, increased animal well-being, and all of that results in better productivity and profitability. So how you get all this information, but how do you actually utilize it is a big problem that people sometimes don't grasp. So if you have a problem, you obviously want information on it. What a producer would do if they don't have technologies is they would go out and check the cow, see if they can notice anything about her. But if you can't notice anything, then you're not even sure that she has a problem to start with. So these technologies can tell you sometimes before a producer would even notice the clinical symptoms. So if you know you have a problem, you look at the information that the technologies are feeding to you, and then that producer would make a decision. This is why producers are so very important in this cycle. They decide whether they want to treat the cow, whether they want to watch her, take more temperatures on her, or whatever they want to do. And then they take that action. But after their action, the technologies can continue to monitor the cow, and then he can continue to evaluate what's happening. If she isn't getting better, maybe he needs to reevaluate the situation. There are some potential limitations to using precision technologies. I think change is a big issue for a lot of people, and I think that might be the biggest limitation. There are slow adoption rates of precision technologies. I'm sure not a lot of people have even heard of them maybe 5-10 years ago. They are a growing thing, but they're still not as popular as I personally would like to see them, but they are growing. There can be animal ID read errors. If it is reading the wrong cow or if it's reading the wrong thing, then that doesn't really give you a lot of information, so we have to watch out for that. If you're transferring tags from one animal to another, we run into this problem with my research project more often again than I would like to see, but you run into a little bit of an issue in the lag between the two animals. Sometimes equipment does fail, unfortunately. I'm sure all of you have had that experience maybe on your computers or when SAS crashes or something. You all know how frustrating it is. Manufacturer differences. So since all of these technologies are so new to everybody, they all kind of have proprietary information that they don't really want to share between the other companies. So for our project, we have, I think, 4 or 5 different computers, and they all have to have, each company has to have their own computer, and you can't share any information between them. And even just using the different software that the companies have, it makes it really difficult if you do have more than one technology. There is something called sensor drift, where maybe you're not measuring the same thing tomorrow as you are today. That can pose a big problem. that most of the technologies actually need to be calibrated, and you need to check that they're working all the time because they do fail and they can potentially not be measuring things correctly. And then quality control is a concern with everything online. So the ideal PDF technology or secondary farming technology should do a couple of things. We shouldn't just go out and buy whatever we see out there, even though the salesmen are sometimes pretty convincing about it. It should explain an underlying biological process. It has to actually tell you something. If it's just giving you data, that's not helping you at all. It can be translated into a meaningful action. So if you get all these temperatures and you can't do anything with them, then it's pretty pointless also. It needs to be low cost, affordable to the farmer. It needs to be reliable. If the boluses or the tags or whatever are dying on you on a daily basis, and you have to go out and keep putting them on cows new every day, then that's not great. The information needs to be readily available to the farmer. The software needs to be user-friendly. It needs to be capable of having anybody use it and printing the lists out and alerts out that the farmer can then take that piece of paper or their Palm Pilot or whatever and go and look at the animals that they need to look at. And farmers should be involved in the development of the technologies. They need to tell us what they need and want. We can't predict that for them, and it needs to work with the management that's already on the farm. I know since we work on a research herd, we ask them to do a lot of things that a normal producer probably wouldn't want to do, but in a commercial setting, it has to work with their normal management. And they need to have continuous improvement and feedback loops. If the producer says, hey, this isn't working, the company needs to accept that and change it. So the technologies are great, I love them, but it's not just about the technologies themselves. The economics plays a huge role in everything that producers do. If you ever talk to a producer, you know that money is sometimes their biggest concern. They have to make money off of it. But it's not about the price itself that sometimes deters the producers from investing in these technologies. There's a lot of factors that go into economics and how people are thinking about economics. The first one is, where is the money actually going? There's a difference between it going to something that's actually useful and that's going to help them, and if it's just going to a big company that they don't think is actually going to do much for them. What else could they do with that money? Could they be paying their feed bill with that money? I think that's a big issue that producers worry about. Could they use it for something else, maybe more expensive semen that they care more about reproduction, something of that nature? And will the investment really pay off? I think producers still mostly question the profitability or the investment value of investing in technologies. Economics is mostly not about money, I think. It's mostly about psychology and behavior and why people make the decisions that they do. I'm not an economist, and I don't claim to be at all, but through my research, I found this study called praxeology, I guess, and it is the study of human decision-making, and it was very interesting. I spent probably an hour reading up on it, and it basically explained that people make decisions in a continuous order, that our minds don't work making a lot of decisions and planning ahead very well. So we knock off the most important thing on our list first, which is probably feed bills, that you want to make sure your cows have feed. And then we move on down the list, which is probably milk production, getting as much milk as you can, and probably SMEG cell count, keeping that decreased. So where do technologies fall in that list of what producers have to worry about? Because we all know that there's a ton of things that they have to worry about on a daily basis. It probably falls pretty low, but hopefully, eventually, producers realize that there is such a great thing that can happen whenever you use the technologies, is you can prevent diseases, you can get your cows bred better, catch more heats, and then all of those things will take care of themselves, except maybe the future. So I hope in the future that we aren't flying cows to the moon, but that they are pretty geared up. This is one of our girls at our farm, and she has a lot of technologies on her, but it would be really cool to see even more on cows in the future, and us not go back to the 1965 ways of farming that our grandfathers and great-grandfathers did, because there's so much potential for the future. Does anyone have any questions?